The late afternoon sun blazed down on the quiet country road, making the air shimmer above the cracked asphalt. 10-year-old Maya Johnson walked slowly, her backpack bouncing against her shoulders with each step. She stopped when her eyes caught the gleam of a candy apple red Shelby Mustang parked on the shoulder, its hood lifted like a yawning mouth. Pacing beside it was a tall white man in an expensive gray suit, his gold watch flashing as he waved angrily at his phone. "I don't care how much it costs," he barked into the receiver. "I've been stranded here for 2 hours. I've got an appointment with the governor in less than 3. He shoved his free hand through his hair, clearly near the breaking point. Maya hesitated. Her aunt had always warned her to steer clear of strangers, especially outsiders who didn't belong in their small, mostly black community outside Boston. But something in the man's voice, the mix of frustration and helplessness, made her pause. She shifted the weight of her worn backpack, feeling the familiar clink of the little toolkit her Uncle Leon had given her. She took a deep breath. Excuse me, sir?" she called carefully. "Need some help with your car?" The man spun around. His name was Andrew Whitaker, a wealthy CEO known across Boston's business world, though Maya had no way of knowing that. His irritation melted into disbelief as he saw her, a skinny little girl with colorful braids, oversized shorts, and a faded MIT t-shirt that clearly belonged to someone else. "That's generous of you, sweetheart," Andrew said, lowering his phone. "But this is a high-performance machine. I don't think it's something you can handle." Maya shrugged and stepped closer. "My uncle runs a garage. He taught me how to work on cars before I could even ride a bike. Maybe I can at least take a look." Before Andrew could stop her, she had already dropped her backpack to the ground and leaned over the engine like she belonged there. She spoke with a calm confidence that caught him off guard. "When did it quit on you?" she asked. "About 40 minutes ago," Andrew muttered, watching her hands. "It overheated, then just died." "Did you smell something sweet, kind of like syrup?" Andrew's eyes widened. "Yes, how did you know that?" "Coolant leak," she said matter-of-factly, pointing to a puddle he hadn't even noticed under the car. "That's why the engine overheated." As she explained, Andrew found himself studying her with a strange sense of recognition. The serious little crease in her forehead, the way her sharp eyes scanned the engine like a checklist. Something about her felt familiar. "What's your name?" he asked suddenly. "Maya Johnson." She extended her small hand, already smudged with grease. "Andrew Whitaker," he replied, shaking it reluctantly. "I think I can patch this up for now," she said, digging into her backpack and pulling out a small metal box. "Uncle Leon makes me carry an emergency kit. He says you never know when someone will need help." With quick, precise movements, Maya wrapped tape around the damaged hose, sealing the leak. "That should hold until you reach a mechanic," she explained. "But you'll need to top it up with water before you drive too far." Andrew watched her, almost entranced. Then, as she brushed her braids from her forehead, something caught his eye, a ring on her finger. It wasn't the kind of cheap trinket most kids wore. The band was old, its gold dulled with age, and at its center sat an emerald stone, bright and deep, glinting in the sun. Andrew's breath caught in his throat. The tiny crescent-shaped flaw inside the stone, he knew it instantly. He had seen it before. His voice trembled. "That ring, it's unusual. Where did you get it?" Maya glanced down at her hand. It was my mom's." "Well, my adoptive mom. She gave it to me before she passed last year. She said it meant something important, that one day I'd understand." Andrew swallowed hard. The world seemed to tilt around him. That ring. He had given it away 12 years ago to a little girl at the Little Angels orphanage. A girl named Maya. The promise he had made and never kept. Trying to compose himself, Andrew offered her a ride home as thanks for helping. After a moment's hesitation, she agreed. During the short drive, Andrew asked quiet questions: where she lived, who she stayed with since her adoptive mother's death. Maya answered simply, with her Aunt Renee and Uncle Leon in the same town since she was 3 years old. "And before that?" Andrew asked carefully. Maya frowned, as if piecing together scraps of memory. "I know I was adopted from an orphanage called Little Angels. It closed down right after." Andrew nearly lost control of the wheel. "Little Angels? Are you certain?" "Yes, why? Do you know it?" He forced a smile, his chest tightening. "I did, a long time ago. When they reached her modest home, Maya thanked him, hopping out of the car. Before she left, he pressed a card into her hand. "If you ever need anything, anything at all, call me." She looked puzzled, but nodded and ran toward her porch, the emerald rings sparkling in the fading sunlight. Andrew sat frozen behind the wheel, his pulse hammering. Then, with shaking hands, he pulled out his phone and dialed his private investigator. The ring, the girl, the orphanage. This chance encounter wasn't chance at all. It was the beginning of secrets unraveling, secrets buried for more than a decade, tied to a billion-dollar empire, a vanished orphanage, and a girl who could fix things most people thought were broken forever. While Andrew Whitaker wrestled with his conscience in the city, Maya was already poring over the faded envelope her Aunt Renee had given her. Inside was a letter Diana had written years earlier, one she had never been meant to open unless the Whitakers resurfaced. The words trembled in Maya's small hands, but their weight was far heavier than paper. Her mother's writing revealed that the emerald ring wasn't just sentimental, it contained something hidden, a key to files that could expose one of the most powerful families in the country. For the first time, Maya began to understand why her life had been shadowed by whispers and half-truths. She wasn't just a girl with an unusual gift for fixing broken machines. She was the missing piece in a story the Whitakers had tried desperately to bury. On the 50th floor of Whitaker Enterprises, tension ran high. The boardroom buzzed with fear as Howard Whitaker stormed in, slamming a fist against the sleek glass table. "Where's Andrew?" he barked. "This meeting was supposed to start an hour ago." The doors opened at last. Andrew entered, calm, a sharp contrast to his father's fury. Beside him walked a woman in a dark suit who introduced herself with a steady voice, "Claire Bennett, federal prosecutor." Howard's face drained of color. One name had already escaped Andrew's lips, Project Prometheus. It was a phrase that had never been meant for the outside world, a program designed to catalog children with extraordinary abilities and bend them to the family's will. "You've lost your mind," Howard hissed. "Do you know what you've done?" Andrew ignored the outburst, plugging his laptop into the large display. In moments, the screen filled with scan reports, photographs, and video stills. "What I should have done years ago," he said. "The truth about little angels. About the other institutions you shut down in the name of profit. About the children you turned into test subjects." Executives exchanged nervous glances as the evidence rolled on, falsified adoption records, hidden transfers, payments to government officials, and even security footage of Diana Johnson slipping through the shadows with a small child in her arms. Howard's voice from the past played on screen. "Find her. That girl is too valuable to lose." Howard tried to recover his composure. "This is theft. Industrial sabotage. Those documents are evidence," Andrew cut in, "of experiments on minors, bribery, even murder. Your empire was built on exploiting the most vulnerable, and it ends today." Before Howard could respond, the doors flew open again. Maya walked in, flanked by her uncle Leon and Marcus Hayes, a reporter with a live camera already rolling. Howard's eyes narrowed. "So you're the one they called Project 17, he sneered. "Not quite what I expected." "You're the man who killed my mother," Maya answered firmly. "Her brakes didn't fail on their own, did they?" Howard gave a cold smile. "Prove it." Maya reached into her backpack and pulled out the emerald ring. With steady hands, she twisted the stone until a tiny compartment clicked open, revealing a hidden drive. "My mother was smarter than you thought," she said. "She hid the backup here. Every file, every recording, every meeting where you planned to turn children into weapons." For once, Howard was speechless. "This is streaming live right now," Marcus Hayes explained, gesturing to his camera. "Tens of thousands of people are already watching." Andrew stepped closer to his father, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's over. The prosecutor has a deal for me if I cooperate. You'll face trial." Federal agents swarmed into the room, placing Howard in handcuffs. As he was led away, Maya looked him in the eye. "Machines can be repaired," she said softly, "but people have to fix themselves. I hope you finally learn how." The world watched as the Whitaker empire unraveled in real time. Stock prices crashed, former allies fled, and decades of corruption were exposed. Andrew, cut off from his inheritance, found himself strangely free. He had chosen a side, the right one. 5 years passed. On the grounds where the orphanage once stood, a gleaming new complex opened its doors, the Johnson Center for Young Inventors. At 15, Maya was no longer just the girl who had stopped to help a stranded stranger. She was a prodigy whose insight into engineering had already produced patents and inventions. She moved through the center's workshops, pointing out flaws in advanced systems with the same ease she once spotted a coolant leak in a Mustang. In the background, Andrew worked quietly, no longer in tailored suits, but in simple shirts, investing what remained of his resources into what they now call the Prometheus Initiative, reimagined not as exploitation, but as opportunity. Children from forgotten communities were given scholarships, mentorships, and freedom to grow. No contracts, no secrets. Leon ran the engineering program. Aunt Renee oversaw community outreach. Investors marveled at the transformation of the man who had once been heir to a tainted empire. And on the wall of the center, framed behind glass, sat the emerald ring, not as a symbol of greed, but of truth and survival. Meanwhile, in a federal prison cell, Howard Whitaker sat aging and bitter. He refused rehabilitation programs, convinced he would someday return to power. But outside, the world had already moved on without him. At the first graduation ceremony of the Johnson Center, Maya addressed the crowd. "When I was 10, I fixed a car on the side of the road," she began, her eyes shining. That small act revealed corruption. But it also revealed possibility, the chance to rebuild something better. Her words carried far beyond the auditorium. They became a reminder that legacies aren't built in steel or fortune, but in the lives touched by courage and truth. And as the sun dipped behind the new center's glass towers, the promise carved into its gates seemed to glow. Every child deserves freedom. Every talent deserves to flourish.